So last week we kind of covered some of the walking the DOM and manipulating the DOM. Today I'll follow that up with a couple demos. I'll just kind of run back through that slide presentation and kind of show you some examples out of there so you can kind of see how they work and how they look. So first thing I did, set up my HTML page. Got that set up. If you want to do that now, you're more than welcome to. I threw a paragraph in there, kind of like what the slide was showing. I have a paragraph, a bold tag that says welcome to, an underlying tag that says the world, and then an italicized tag of JavaScript. And then I put a script tag in there with my source. I called it domdemo.js. And then in the domdemo.js, we'll start out by the use strict. And then I am going to create a little method here. Document.query selector. And so what this is going to do is I can use that $sign there, and when I do, it's going to just say go get the selector I'm choosing. So then I can do a constant $sign, or actually I want to do a constant paragraph equals $sign. And so what I'm doing on this line here is I'm using this $sign here. It's saying selector, go do this query selector and get whatever selector I'm going for. Here I'm creating a constant variable called paragraph. I'm using this little method or function up here. And I'm saying with this $sign, run this document query selector, the selector I'm choosing is a paragraph. If it had a $sign, it'd be pulling it by ID. If it had a period in there, it'd be pulling it by class. So I'm just saying go get a paragraph for now. And so like the slide was showing, we'll create another variable constant. We'll call it bold element. So we created this variable called paragraph, assigned it the value of the paragraph, and so now that we're doing that, we're going to use this kind of like an object, and so we're going to say paragraph dot first child dot node value. And so what this is doing is we create a variable called bold element. This bold element goes out to the paragraph, and you can see that's our selector is the paragraph. So it goes and finds this paragraph tag here, and then our first child is this bold tag, and it's saying get the first child and the first child after that, and that would be this text in here. So technically this is the first child and this is the first child of the first child, and I know that sounds confusing and it's weird to say it like that. So we have the parent here is the paragraph, this bold tag is the first child, and this text is a first child of the first child. Does that make sense? Yeah. So let me bring something up here real quick just to kind of show you. So going back to our slide, what we're looking at here is you have a child or a parent there, then you have a child, and a child is what we're looking at. So this is the first child of the form, and this is the first child of this label, and that's why it goes first child as we're walking through this. So parent, first child is the bold tag, and then the first child of the bold tag is this text here, and then we do this node value to get the value of that text from it. So then we do constant and I'll call it under element since it's going to be an underline. And again, we're going to use that paragraph. And we're going to say first child dot next element sibling that first child dot node value. I spelled element wrong, that's why it didn't come up as a pre-populated thing. So now what we're saying on here is go get the paragraph, which we set up here, that's the parent of it. Go get the first child, that first child was that bold element here. That's the first child, and it's saying get the next sibling of that, because that's the parent and that's a child. The next sibling technically element is that underline there, so it's saying go grab the underline. So paragraph first child is the bold, go get the next sibling, which is that underline, then go get that first child of the underline. That first child of the underline is this text node again, so then it goes and grabs that text. This node value gets the value of that text, so we'll be able to see what that text is eventually. And then finally, oops, we'll do a italicized element. Get our paragraph again. Now we're going to do the last child since we don't need any more in that line. First child dot node value. And again, a lot of this goes back to the CSS stuff because that's technically what we're doing, is kind of walking this down. Kind of the way we were setting styles using the child and all that stuff in the CSS part of the course. So then we can do a console dot log, and we'll log bold element plus our under element plus our ital element. And we should see in our console when we run this our paragraph here saying welcome to the world of JavaScript. So if we just run this now, you can see here's our paragraph. Welcome to is bold, the world is underlined, and Java of JavaScript exclamation point is italicized. We go look at this in our console. I had this issue the other night when I was messing with this, but that's not really anything that is messing with ours. It's the favicon, as you can see here, favicon. So you can see now in our code here in our console, our bold element is welcome to, the underline element, the world, is here, and of JavaScript is here. So it ends up printing all that out in the console just like we expected. So we went and got our bold element, our underline element, and our italicized element, printed them all out to the log. You can see just by using our code here, we pulled all this stuff here out of this paragraph and put it to our console. And then we can also, I'll just comment these out real quick. Just want to grab everything, we can do a console.log. Well, actually, I'll do it up here. We got to create a variable. Paragraph text equals text content, and if we do a console.log for that, save that, go look out in our console again, you'll see our console, the welcome to the world of JavaScript is still there. And again, this text content just pulls all the text out of our paragraph. So the example down here, we're pulling them out piece by piece via the element. And here we said don't worry about the elements, just grab all that text that's in there for us. And so that's what text content will do. So then if we want to go set a first element, change the text on it, we can do something like this, paragraph, first child, and we're going to change this line here. And we're going to say first child. We don't need that there at this moment, so we can do text content equal, what's our paragraph? Welcome to the world of JavaScript. And we'll just say come back to the world of JavaScript. So now this should replace our welcome to and say come back. Make it say to, so our sentence is good. Come back to the world of JavaScript. So let's save that. Go look at our console, and we got an error under element. Oh yeah, it's got to uncomment these, sorry. And so now you can see by doing our paragraph first child text content, it changes from welcome to come back to the world of JavaScript. And what that's doing, it just goes out and finds his first child, which is the bold element. And you can see it changed it up here to come back to. So it goes and finds the bold element, which is the first child, and then it says whatever text is in there, change it using this text content, just like we did on the paragraph up here, and change it to come back to. And then if we wanted to change just the whole paragraph itself, can just do paragraph text, content equals hello world. Comment these out again. And you can see that changed our whole paragraph there to say hello world now. So it just says take our main element paragraph, get all that text content out of there, which all that text content is welcome to the world of JavaScript. It says don't worry about all the tags inside of here, just go get us all this text and change that text to make it say hello world. So that's how you can change the whole paragraph of it. Use that text content. The text content just looks for the text in it. And the other ways, again, it kind of steps through the DOM, all the little nodes, the parent, the child, and all that to get what we want it to do there. So let's see what else we got going on here. How to test for and get an attribute. So let's try this and see where we get. So we're going to put a UL in there, give it an ID, call it image list. LI. Yeah, I don't like this because I don't have images for it. Put some images in a folder, and let's set this up and see what we can do with it. Image source is images. Oops. We'll do famous Pikachu. Equal sign in there and I'll get rid of that. So now we open this live server. Ooh, Pikachu's a little bit bigger than I was expecting. Let's see what the next door does. That's a little better. UL close. So now if we want to get an array of all the LI elements, what we we would do is do a constant, just call it a list. If I take this little constructor out of here, or constructor, the little method up here, if I comment that out, what we'd have to do then to get it to work would be a document dot query selector, and then we have to tell it we want the ID of image list. So by putting this little method up here, function, whatever you want to call it, little line of code that's called here, we don't have to type in this document.query selector. All we have to do is put our little $sign in there and it'll do the same thing. So you may want to try and get in the habit of that to save you a little bit of time when you have to type out a lot of document.query selectors, or if you do it by ID, you can do it element by ID if you want to. They're trying to get away from element by ID and trying to use this query selector more. So that's why I'm kind of using this a little bit more than get element by ID. And then we do a constant items. And we're going to use a query selector all here. And we're saying go get all the LI elements out of that. So when you use this query selector all, this all pulls all the LIs back. We have 2 of them, so we should have an array of 2 LI elements. Let's see if we can do a console log. I'll put items in here and see what happens. So there's our images in that. Check F12. And you can see our node list. It shows 2 items in there now. And it gets the first LI there, and our second LI, and our length is 2. So you can see how that stuffs it in an array. Got some information with it, but we're not worried about any of that at this moment. There's where they're pulling it from. It's an image. So you can see again, like I said, with the that query selector all, when you use this query selector all, it puts everything into an array for you because it's pulling all these LI elements back. So if we put another one in there, we shouldn't even need to put an element in there. We could just put some text in there and it should still text. We'll save that. And now you can see it has 3 LIs. They're pulling 3 of them back because we have 3 of them. We now have 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. We go look at our console that we printed it out to, and you should be able to see and there's our text there. 1, 2, 3, and it's showing our length of 3. So you may need to do that at some time, but it's just a way you can access all these elements at once. Yep.
Can I see your download demo of the console?
You know, that part of the actual JavaScript.
I was just like, just texting the console model here, down demo.
So there's my console.log down there at the bottom. I just put
Got it.
items in there. So then if we want to test for an attribute, if, and this is just your common if statement, we'll say list dot has attribute, and we're going to say class in here. Say constant class. Of course, we don't have a class attribute in here. Not too many around there. And then we'll do an else. Run that. And again, like I said, we didn't have a class in there, so we get that error, there is not a class attribute. If we had a class in there for a list, and now you can see we don't get that because there is a class in there. So it's just checking to see if there's a class. What's class attribute? Let's see if this will list our attribute in there. So you can see here now it lists our class attribute and it's telling us our class that we used there was no class. And so you can see now that it says if it has attribute with a class, and we know it does because we added our class to it. And it says if it does, go right out to the console class attribute, because it's getting that attribute class, and then it takes it, stores it in the variable, and we're printing it out to the console. If we get rid of that class, again, this alert will pop up. So that's kind of what that's doing there. You can see there's our error again because we took our class attribute out of there. Now that there's not one, it's going to fall through our if statement just like a normal if statement. Checks to see if that's true or false. We know it's false because we took that class out, so it's not going to drop into the true part of it. It's going to get caught by this else statement and throw that alert. Does that make sense? do the remove attribute. So let's go back, Control Z, Control S. We're going to do dot list. We'll do remove. Even though there's a class in there, we got the class in there, we use this remove it, so we removed it, and then it comes down to this else because of that. So that's why that alert pops up there. So if you have an attribute, and you, we'll do one more, and I'll give you no class, and we'll do extra class. So now it should still stay positive, but our text will go from that green to an orange. So let me save this and run it. And apparently not. I got an undefined here. No class, extra class. The problem is we're saying on here, remove class, and it's removing that class, and our class has both of our styles in it, and so it's removing it. So let's try. I'm actually going to put the ID afterwards. Duplicate of ID. Oh, we already have an ID in here, so. Won't be that way. We'll do it different then. We're just going to say the UL here then. Let me take this ID off. There. So now it should remove our class here because of our JavaScript, and it should still keep it orange because we changed the style to make our UL orange. Control S, save that, and now it's orange because of that. So it removes our class for making it green, and now it makes it orange. So you can do if statements to say if such and such, and then you can do your has attribute class stuff in there, and you can change colors around if need be to do it that way. So let's look at some other stuff on this slide. So if we want to give these some IDs here, JavaScript. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this stuff here. We'll say we're going to check the ID of an attribute in the first element of array. I don't think this is going to work the way I have it set up, but we'll take a look. Mostly because this isn't, we may have to make these anchors because it's going to look for an attribute, and we don't necessarily have an attribute in this list. It's just these are just elements, so let's actually just clean this up. Guess we could technically get the alts out of them. Let's see if that will work. We'll get try and get the alts out of these. This won't work because there is no image or anything in here. So this should hopefully it'll pull our alt back out of here because, or our source, one of the two, probably the source since it's the first one, because that's the attribute there that we're gonna try and grab. So let's do list 0 dot ID. We'll go ahead and do another console log first list ID. We'll see what we get back with that. So now hopefully what we'll do is we're getting our list here, the image list, get all the LIs out of it, and with all these LIs we're going to say go grab the first one out of here, and I think this should be items and not list. That should work. So if we save this, go out here and look, go to our console, and that's not actually showing us any. I thought it would have here. So it's not wanting to pick up our second section of them there. Items, yeah, that's what we want. Query selector, get all LIs. Items, our ID. So I don't know why that's not wanting to pull it. But that should, for some reason, I switched it to pull just the query selector from the way I had it. But it's still not wanting to populate right, so I'll have to take a look at that. But anyway, that's kind of the way you want to do it there, why it's not wanting to cooperate with us. Still gives us that, but it's not giving our second one. 21 and 22. I'm not sure. I'll have to take more of a look at that.
Mr. G, do you used to watch regular show back in the day?
What's that?
Do you used to watch regular show back in the day?
Watch what?
Regular show?
No.
Okay, it literally reminds me of that so much. It's like, eat it that.
I get up, I turn on the news, and that's about all I watch until I come in.
Oh.
So let's take a look at another one. So let's see if we can get the tag name from this. And there you can see it's getting the tag name now. It's telling us it's an LI. So I don't know why our attribute one wasn't working earlier. So what we did on this one is we just said go get that first item in a list and get that tag name off of it. Well, of course, with our query selector all, we're pulling the LI, so this tag name is going out and telling us what tag name we're pulling, and it happens to be the LI. And you can see again on our thing, here's our 3 nodes, the 3 LIs that we have listed, and this one is telling us this is what we're pulling as an LI, is the tag that we're actually getting. So that's how that works. Next one is disabling buttons, and that we've worked with that, so I'm not too worried about that. So then we can do a little bit of CSS stuff with this. So our DOM up here, we'll put an H1. We'll give it a class. Call it first. Just setting up some styles real quick. So if we run this, our H1 should be red. There's our H1 and it is red. So then we're going to get the element for that, and then we're going to end up changing it. So comment all this stuff out for now. So we can do a constant h1 equals, there's a document.query selector. We can use it like that if we want. We're telling it look for the h1 element. Say hdg1 dot class list dot add blue. Let's see what happens with this. If anything, there it changed it to blue. Ended up moving it to the left instead of to the right. Should have lined it to the right, but I put it to the left for some reason. Still there. So I'm not sure why I wanted to do that, but then we can go in and say replace class list, replace actually, let's go back and leave it like it was. Replace, we're going to replace the blue with red, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully it goes back to where it was. And it did. It said go take the blue one, go replace it with our red one that we created. And moved it back over. Actually, that probably should be first instead of red. And then if we want to remove one, just tell which one we want to remove. And it should be back to our blue. Oh, we lost our blue. I'm guessing it just takes it back to the main one without any at that point, since we removed it. And so you can see it just removes the class style of it and puts it back to the original. So that's the remove part of it. You can check for a class. So we'll say if heading 1 dot class list dot contains first. Class list add. Say bold, else alert. So you probably won't see much of a bold because of that. Because we're already using H1. Let's go with, let's just make this a paragraph for now. So Control S. You can see it's just a little tiny paragraph up there. The only thing we did was took the H1 off of it. So now if we want to go over here, because we're still trying to get that H1, this isn't going to work properly. We got to tell it we want it to be a paragraph now. Now that it's looking for our paragraph, it should make it bold for us. And go figure. Let's try if we do element by ID. See if that allows it to work. Control S. Still not wanting to work. There's a class list on there. Oops. So I'm not sure why I wasn't happy with this. Contains first, it should bold it, but we change it to a paragraph and it should still. Still not wanting to bold it. Class is first. So we're saying if heading 1 contains first, add bold, or no class. So if we took now we get our alert, no class, so that part's working. So it is checking to see if it contains first, and it did. Oh, you know what? I know what I did wrong. See if that is what we were missing. No class, because I haven't put it back in yet. now that we got our class in, we won't get our error message. And there, it bolded it just because I didn't have the class set up right. See, it works. So, what's that?
I say it's interesting because, like, where did you put the arrow bold at? Or is it just getting it from
the bold?
Yeah, I don't see.
So in my JavaScript here, I do, I check, I check to see if it contains that class first. And if it does, then add that class called bold. And that was what my problem was, is I was thinking add bold, that I was going to bold it like that, but seeing it's the string with the parentheses around it, I realized that I needed to make that a class. So that's where I made that class bold and did it like that. So it just adds it to it. It keeps as the first class and just adds this bold class to it. And so that's why we get what we get there. So that's pretty much it for most of that. Let's see. Got text box stuff and that, but we've worked with those a bunch in the past with our forms and stuff like that, so I'm not gonna worry about going over too much of that. I just want to show you how you could walk this DOM and change some of this stuff around by walking the DOM and using some of this class list and all that. These how you can walk through doing the first child, text content, next text sibling. So that way you can kind of see how it actually worked. So I don't know how much of that stuff you actually have to do in your labs in that, but just so you have an idea and kind of see how it works rather than just going off the slides that whole time and stuff like that. Let's see. So yeah, that should be all. Like I said, we've worked with the text boxes and check boxes and radio buttons with the whether it's checked, false, or true and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go too much into that. I'll let you guys get started on your labs or keep working on your labs and that. Got any questions or comments, concerns over that part?